Welcome to Path of Exile 2. It looks like you're trying to level a monk, and I can help with that. In this one, I'm going to cover the best early game skills and tree in order to excel at the leveling process. I'll also give you my best tips and tricks to help you along the way. What this video is not. This is not a guide to the acts, nor is it an endgame guide. As a monk, our starting skill in the Riverside is Falling Thunder. This is okay for shocking bosses, but it's not very good for killing them because it has low damage. We're going to use our basic attack to actually fight the first boss, the Miller. Once you've downed the bloated Miller and go into the town for the first time, you'll meet Renly. He'll give you an uncut skill gem and you're going to cut this into Glacial Cascade. You do want to keep your gear up to date by using the Vendors and the Gambler, but if this is our first run of the league, we won't have enough gold to use them, so we'll just head straight out to Clearfell. In here, you'll find the mysterious encampment. It'll either be against the left wall or the right. In the chest in the encampment, you'll find an uncut skill gem. Cut this into Killing Palm. This gives us a jump to the nearest enemy, and if they have the little blue light on their head, it will one-shot them, and grant you a power charge. By default, you can gain up to 3 power charges this way. And power charges synergize with Falling Thunder. They increase both its area of effect and its damage. To run quickly in the first part of the game, we are going to charge up our power charges using Killing Palm on any monster that gets a little blue light. Once this gets to a charge of 3, we're then going to release it to kill huge swathes of monsters. Unlike in Path of Exile 1, our basic attack does a ton of damage. In fact, it outperforms all other skills in the early game. And for that reason, we're going to use it predominantly throughout Act 1 to kill all bosses. We will use Glacial Cascade if the boss is dangerous at close range. My general tactic is to go and hit a boss, and if they start doing a lot of damage to me, I move away. I then strafe them in a large semicircle and then go the other way once I get to the edge of the arena. I'll then continue to hit them with Glacial Cascade until dead. Do note that Glacial Cascade does way more damage at the end of its run. You therefore want to carefully position yourself so you just hit the boss at the end of the Glacial Cascade. Too close and you'll do less damage, too far away and you'll completely miss it and do no damage. As you continue to level through the campaign, you'll start to drop uncut support gems and uncut skill gems of higher levels. Support gems link to your existing gems in the empty slots, and they give them a buff, either increasing the damage of the skill or changing its behaviour. For our first 2 support gems in Act 1, we're going to go with Martial Tempo and Rage in that order, and we're going to link those to our Quarterstaff basic attack. Martial Tempo increases the attack speed of the supported attack by 25%. This is actually really noticeable early on, but it also increases over time as we continue to scale our attack speed. Rage is a little bit different. Each time we hit an enemy with a supported melee attack, we will gain 1 stack of Rage. Each stack of Rage gives us 1% more increased attack damage up to a maximum of 30 stacks. Note that only 1 hit every 0.5 of a second can gain you a stack of Rage. You'll also start to lose Rage at 1 every 0.1 second when you stop gaining Rage or you stop taking damage. This isn't as bad as it sounds because it only kicks in after 2 seconds of matching those conditions. Regarding the uncut skill gems of higher levels, these can be used to upgrade your current skills or get a higher tier skill. Wherever I mention a higher tier skill, get that first. Otherwise, level the current skills in this order. Glacial Cascade first, Falling Thunder second, and Killing Palm third. Once you get your first 3rd level skill gem, we're going to go for Tempest Bell. We're going to use Tempest Bell whenever we come across a rare mob or a boss. It's broken. Instead of hitting the enemy, we hit the bell. The bell then sends out shockwaves that do a ton of damage. The bell can also be shocked, chilled, or ignited. Each ailment on the bell gives you 30% more damage. Get one of all 3 and that's 90% more damage, which is just insane. To try and temper this power, the developers have locked it behind the combo system. It requires 4 combo points to even activate. You generate combo points by using different skills in sequence. You can also generate combo points by using skills that build combo points or by hitting with your basic attack, which also generates combo points per hit. Never before have I crammed combo points so many times into a sentence, and hopefully never again. For our next 3 support gems, we are going to plug Cold Infusion into Glacial Cascade. This gives the skill increased cold damage. We're then going to plug the other 2 into Tempest Bell. These will be Overabundance and Magnified Effect. Magnified Effect just increases the range of the bell, so it hits more mobs. Overabundance, however, allows us to cast 2 bells at once, which actually allows us to build combo points while the bell is out, which normally isn't possible. Which means the moment we're finished with 1 bell, we can slam down the next. This is exceptionally powerful when it comes to bossing. The monk's starting position on the passive skill tree gives us loads of powerful skills really close to us. We're going to collect all these before moving outwards. There will be a POB in the description showing the early skill tree. I cannot stress enough how important it is to keep your gear upgraded. You can do this from drops, crafting, or from a vendor. The upgrade to my quarterstaff here increased my damage from 112 to 174. That's a lot. Some other really important things to look out for at the vendor are movement speed boots. These are really strong early on because they allow you to move much faster. Moving faster also helps improve your survivability, and we're going to need all the survivability we can get as we head to our next boss, the King of the Mist in the Freythorn. This boss gates our first step into the world of Spirit. Spirit is the resource in Path of Exile 2 that allows us to cast auras. And auras come from our third kind of uncut skill gem, the Spirit Gem. Once we do down the King of the Mist, he'll drop the Gem Bloom Skull. Clicking on this will give us our first 30 spirit and will then convert the skull to a Spirit Gem. This is level 4 Spirit Gem, and with it we'll be picking up Wind Dancer. Wind Dancer generates stacks over time, each stack giving you increased evasion. If you get hit, you lose all the stacks but push back all enemies in a radius. If you have a spare support gem, you can link this to Pin, which will pin the monsters as they get pushed back. After this, we're going to go back and talk to Finn, who will give us our first charm. I recommend the cold one for fighting the end of act boss. Fast forward now to the Executioner. I've been pretty lucky this run. I've dropped a unique helmet, a unique set of gloves, and a really decent early game quarterstaff. This means that with the bell, I completely decimated this boss. If you haven't been as lucky as me, this boss can be a little more difficult, and do use Glacial Cascade from a distance to be safe. Once he's down, pull the lever releasing Lettuce. Follow her back to town and get our first level 5 skill gem. You'll need to be level 14 in order to use this. From this skill you have two real options. The first, and the one I use, is Ice Strike. This is really decent early on for clear. It also has a really strong chance of freezing the enemy, meaning it's super safe. But it certainly is not the best for bossing, which will lead us to the next skill in a moment. But first, this skill does replace Glacial Cascade, and we'll use for its supports Cold Infusion, which we take off Glacial Cascade, and Ice Bite. Note that the skill can freeze bosses, but it's a bit hit and miss, so if you try and use it as your predominant boss killing thing, it's probably a bit dangerous. The alternative skill, which is Tempest Flurry, is a really fast attack. You can use it with the actual support gems that we put on our basic attack, leading to Tempest Flurry, Martial Tempo, and Rage. This skill does not have as much power as our basic attack, but it does attack much faster. Both of these skills build up combo charges. Tempest Flurry builds them up slightly quicker. If you do go with the same skill as me, Ice Strike, then we will be picking up Tempest Flurry anyway in the next act. I do many practice runs to get these leveling guides just perfect, and this is the first time I found two gems that tore me so much. The reason I went with Ice Strike ultimately is that I think it's better in the ad phase of the big end boss fight. I find that part of the fight really challenging. If you are having any problems navigating Act 1, then you can use this video in conjunction with my Act 1 guide, which will guide you through each of the areas in detail. Let's move on to some quick tips for the last boss fight of Act 1. If you're using Ice Strike, then use it to try and freeze the boss on the bell, and then once you freeze him or stun him, go in with auto attacks on the bell instead. You'll see that your auto attacks are both faster and more damaging than Ice Strike. Once you see the beams fall from the sky, just stop attacking him and get out of the way. Same with the ice dots. There's a certain amount of time before they explode. Be out of the way when that happens. If you're using Tempest Flurry, use that instead of auto attacks. And do remember to make heavy use of the bell. Once you down the boss of Act 1, we can move on to Act 2. Act 1 has been particularly heavy because of the sheer number of skill changes we have. These skill changes will diminish as we move forward, and therefore I'll be really ramping the pace. Into Act 2 now, and after we finish off the first boss, we can go to Zarka for our next Tier 5 skill gem. And you guessed it, we'll be going for Tempest Flurry. As I mentioned in the previous video, grab the gems from our normal quarterstaff attack and switch them over. Next, we're going to focus on picking up some more support gems. If, like me, you didn't manage to get Ice Bite for Ice Strike yet, pick this up next. Our Ice Strike links are Cold Infusion and Ice Bite. For Falling Thunder, we want to pick up Perpetual Charge. This gives the skill 35% chance not to consume the power charges, even though it gets the full buff. Continuing the same theme, for Killing Palm, we're going to pick up Profusion. This gives us a 50% chance when we gain a charge to actually gain 2. So now when we gain a charge, we can gain 2 of them, and we don't necessarily use those charges, so it's very easy to stay at 3 for much longer. Apart from leveling gems, there are no changes now until we get our first Tier 7 gem, where we'll be getting Stormwave. Stormwave is going to retire Ice Strike. So Ice Strike goes away and we move Cold Infusion over, and then get a supplementary support gem of Innovate. On killing a shocked enemy, Innovate will give us 35% of our damage as extra lightning damage. And next we'll be picking up 2 extra support gems, one for Falling Thunder, which is Lightning Infusion, which gives us more lightning damage, and Life Drain for killing Palm, so when we kill people we'll get some life back. There are now no changes until Act 3, so let's go there right now. Nothing really changes now until we get a level 9 skill gem, where we'll be going for Charged Staff. This skill turns our character into a Jedi with a double-ended lightsaber. It only does this when it consumes power charges, and so other power charge consumers have to go. Falling Thunder, goodbye. Move Perpetual Charge over and add Persistence, so that our charges last longer. 3 charges will now give us 25 seconds of Charged Staff. So what does the lightsaber actually do? Well, it infuses our quarterstaff with lightning damage, so all our attacks will deal extra lightning. The amount of lightning added is dependent on the number of charges consumed. It also provides a lightning shockwave to all skills. This turns Tempest Flurry into an absolute beast of a skill. With the changes in Act 2 and Act 3, our game loop now changes a little bit. We'll be using Stormwave as our main clear skill. This shoots out a large beam in front of it, which goes quite a way. If you get large packs of blues or rares, we can switch to Tempest Flurry, we'll drop the bell in the middle of them and blow them all up. This is also the way we like to deal with bosses. Act 3 is also where we start to drop level 2 support gems. And for our first one, we'll be swapping out Innovate for Primal Armaments on Stormwave. This increases the amount of elemental damage that our weapon will provide to the skill. This includes anything converted from physical. Now just a note on the Venom quest at the beginning of Act 3. Right now the reward cannot be changed, and I prefer to go for the increased stun threshold. Towards the end of Act 3 we'll meet a boss in the Azak Bog. She rides a broomstick. She's called Ignak Duck or something like that. Once she's down, pick up the skull, right click it and you will get 30 spirit along with a spirit gem. We're going to use this spirit gem to get Combat Frenzy. Do note before we switch on this aura we need to make sure we've got resonance on the tree. What this skill does is if we freeze or electrocute an enemy, it will give us frenzy charges. Resonance on the tree converts these frenzy charges to power charges, so we now have a way of constantly regenerating power charges without jumping on an enemy with Killing Palm. And for that reason we can now drop Killing Palm. Do add the Profusion skill that was supporting this onto Combat Frenzy. To replace the jump to enemy that Killing Palm gave us, we can pick up Hand of Chayula, which just does the same thing but does chaos damage when it lands instead of granting a charge. The skills as they are right now will take us all the way to endgame maps, but there are some upgrades you can do if you happen to come across some lesser Jeweler's Orbs. These allow you to add a 3rd support slot to each of your skills, and I have 3 suggestions to help you through the rest of the game with some extra power. The first is Tempest Flurry. Add Electrocute to this, get these Electrocute nodes on the tree, and this will increase your generation of power charges, making them much more frequent. It's also a great defensive lair, because when they're electrocuted, monsters will do a little dance instead of hitting you. For Stormwave, you really want to get Upheaval as quickly as possible. This though is a tier 3 support gem which can only drop from Act 5 onwards. You can plug Innovate temporarily back in to give you extra lightning damage until you can get this. Upheaval basically allows us to convert our 1 beam to 3, giving us much more clear. On Charged Staff, I like to go for Conduction for a greater chance to shock. Just in case you didn't know, shocked enemies take a base increase of damage of 20%. You can increase this by getting shock magnitude nodes on the tree if you really wish. Once you run out of the tree that's provided by this guide, what you want to do is find an endgame build that you want to roll into, and then start mapping that tree on top of the one we've already got. The hooded one allows you to re-roll your passive tree using gold, and it's not an awful lot of gold to change your tree. This guide was created assuming your league starting. All footage was taken from an SSF character with no starting gold or gear. If this is not your first rodeo of this league, then you can pick the skills much sooner and get your character much more powerful than it would be otherwise. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, then please leave a like and consider subscribing. And with that, may the RNG be with you.